President DeGioia, Ms. Figueres, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Georgetown University. We have assembled here today to confer upon Christiana Figueres our highest honor, the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters honoris causa. Georgetown University is in turn honored by her presence here today and by her acceptance of this degree. If you will, please remain standing for a few minutes for the singing of Veni Creator Spiritus performed by the Georgetown University Concert Choir under the direction of Frederick Binkholder, Associate Professor of the Practice in the Department of Performing Arts, and for the opening prayer given by Dr. Laura Smith, Associate Professor in the School of Foreign Service.
Dear loving God, we gather today to honor you and the gift you have given us of this home, this earth, with its bounty and beauty, the beauty of spring in particular, which is literally blossoming all around us today. And we gather to remind each other of the sacred duty and honor we have to protect our earth, that cherished gift that you, our God and Lord, have given us as its stewards. We gather to honor in particular one individual who has taken a leadership role in an invaluable effort to protect the environment, but also to the inclusion of all the Earth's people in that effort. And so we thank you, dear God, for the gift of those who guide us to better care for this earth. We pray for you to be with us on this day as we pause to reflect on our shared service to the earth and to each other. We think of the words of the biologist and naturalist Rachel Carson, who asked us all to approach the world with a child's sense of wonder so that we might appreciate the beauty of the natural world that you, our Creator, have offered us and not miss the living music that nature provides. And so in this day, in this time together this morning, we take time to honor the creation and the fellow humans among us that are striving to protect our earth, to build our common humanity, both on the hilltop and across the globe. Today we come before you, our loving God, with a sense of gratitude and optimism, the belief that our actions today and every day reflect a common care for the earth and our fellow humans that will serve you and each other and preserve this beautiful earth for generations and millennia to come. We thank you for the gift of our life, our home, this earth, and our time together. Amen.
Please be seated. Thank you, Dr. Smith. Our founder, Most Reverend John Carroll, the first Archbishop of Baltimore and the first Catholic bishop in the United States, took legal possession of this land on the hilltop in 1789. And we mark that as our founding date. Our first student, the future North Carolina Congressman William Gaston, arrived in 1791. and our first bachelor's degrees were not awarded until 1817. During the years of our establishment, the Jesuits who founded us were suppressed by papal edict until Pope Pius VII completely restored the order 200 years ago on August 7th, 1814. That year, 1814, also saw the British attack on the city of Baltimore and their invasion of Washington as part of the so-called War of 1812. And for a time, our college lived in great fear that it would be overrun, but we escaped and thrived. It was in 1815 that, with enrollments passing the 100 mark, the college's president, Father John Grassi of the Society of Jesus, asked then Congressman Gaston to present a petition for a federal charter, a document that still today sanctions the academic business we do here. And so it is our custom to initiate academic ceremonies like this one today with a reading of that charter. And to discharge this office, I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Edward M. Quinn, Secretary of the University.
An act concerning the College of Georgetown in the District of Columbia. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled, that it shall and may be lawful for such persons as now are, or from time to time may be, the President and Directors of the College of Georgetown within the District of Columbia, to admit any of the students belonging to said college or other persons meriting academical honors to any degree in the faculties, arts, sciences, and liberal professions to which persons are usually admitted in other colleges and universities of the United States, and to issue in an appropriate form the diplomas or certificates which may be requisite to testify to the admission of such degree. Signed, Langdon Chivas, Speaker of the House of Representatives, John Gaillard, President pro tempore of the Senate. Approved March 1st, 1815, James Madison.
We now come to the heart of today's ceremony. The honorary degree citation will be read by Ambassador Milan Vivir, Executive Director of the Georgetown Institute for Women, Peace, and Security, and then Dr. John J. DeGioia, 48th President of Georgetown University, will confer the degree and present to us our newest alumna.
An extraordinary global leader, Christiana Figueres, exemplifies what it means to live service to the planet and its people. A tireless and effective advocate for action on climate change, she has helped to inspire a collective sense of purpose as communities around the world seek to respond to this pressing and urgent global challenge. Born in San Jose, Costa Rica, and trained as an anthropologist, she began her career in public service in 1982 at the Embassy of Costa Rica in Germany, where she served as minister counselor. In 1987, she became Director of International Cooperation in the Ministry of Planning in Costa Rica, and a year later, Chief of Staff to the Minister of Agriculture. Later, moving to the United States, she served as Director of the Technical Secretariat for Renewable Energy in the Americas. And in 1995, she founded the nonprofit Center for Sustainable Development of the Americas, which she directed for 8 years. Motivated by a concern about the impact of climate change on the most vulnerable in our world and on future generations, she joined the Costa Rican climate change negotiating team in 1995 and served for 14 years working on both the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC, and the Kyoto Protocol negotiations. She held formal roles representing Latin America and the Caribbean on the executive board of the Clean Development Mechanism in 2007 and was elected vice president of the Bureau of the Conference of the Parties in 2008. Throughout her service, she sought to encourage Latin America's active participation in the negotiations, and she made important contributions to the literature on the design of the climate regimen. For the past 6 years, she has served as Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, taking on the role at a time of turmoil after the 2009 United Nations Climate Change Conference in Copenhagen. Since she began as Executive Secretary, she has brought a sense of optimism and shared responsibility at a critical point in the movement addressing climate change. In her opening address as Executive Secretary in August 2010, she spoke words of resolve and determination. "We must progress," she said, "in the full knowledge that we cannot cross the ocean on a single gust of wind. But if we don't raise the sails higher now, we may never discover a safer, more stable world." In her time as Executive Secretary, she has helped lead a remarkable transformation in our global commitment to addressing climate change. An accomplished diplomat, she has demonstrated the importance of multilateral diplomacy on a global scale and an ability to bring governments, NGOs, corporations, activists, and communities of faith together around a common cause. Under her direction, the UNFCCC held a series of successful annual climate change conferences from 2010 to 2014, laying the foundation for the most recent Conference of the Parties in Paris and ensuring a sense of fairness, transparency, predictability, and protection for the most vulnerable. The effectiveness of her diplomacy and the persistence of her optimism are evident in the historic global agreement made by 195 nations in Paris. Inspiring a sense of urgency, optimism, and collective responsibility, she represents the kind of leadership that can transform our world, our relationships to one another, and to our environment. She has helped us to realize the words of His Holiness Pope Francis in his 2015 encyclical, Laudato Si, on care for our common home. "Humanity still has the ability to work together," he wrote, "in building our common home." In recognition of her transformative leadership on the issue of climate change, her concern for its effect on the world's most vulnerable people, and her demonstration of the importance and effectiveness of multilateral global diplomacy, Georgetown University is privileged to confer upon Christiana Figueres the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Congress of the United States and by the Board of Directors of Georgetown University, I officially confer upon Christiana Figueres the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa. Congratulations. Well, thank you all for being with us this morning, and let me begin by offering my gratitude and my most sincere congratulations to our newest alumnus, Christiana Figueres. We're honored to have this opportunity to welcome her back to Georgetown. I also wish to extend my appreciation to the members of our Georgetown University Concert Choir for their performance during this ceremony, and to each of the participants in today's ceremony. Thank you for making today's gathering that much more special by your presence. Well, we come together today here in Gaston Hall to recognize the vision, dedication, and service of a leader who has been instrumental in transforming our global response to climate change. You've already heard about her accomplishments as Executive Secretary of the United Nations Framework Convention for Climate Change, about her deep commitment to those most vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, and of the hope that she has inspired as we grapple with this truly global challenge. We live in challenging times. This is a moment that has tested the will of our international community, of our individual communities, of each of us around the world to address climate change, how it is changing our world now and into the future. This is a challenge for which each of us and all of us have a responsibility to respond. And as we have heard today, His Holiness Pope Francis spoke to the significance of this global challenge in his 2015 encyclical, Laudato Si', where he tells us, quote, "An integral ecology is inseparable from the notion of the common good." He continues, "The gravity of the ecological crisis demands that we all look to the common good, embarking on a path of dialogue which demands patience, self-discipline, and generosity, always keeping in mind that realities are greater than ideas." There is perhaps no better description of the approach that Ms. Figueres has taken, calling us to our responsibility for the common good, to dialogue, to understanding the reality of the challenges that we face. A commitment to the common good changes everything. It acknowledges that there is a truth to be discovered and good to be realized when we engage in the work of seeking the common good. This discovery, this realization occurs in dialogue with one another and especially with those with whom we disagree. The starting point is always within ourselves. A commitment to the common good begins in our own interior freedom. From within, we choose to pursue something that is bigger than any one of us, the good that we can only seek together. There are moments when it becomes clear that a renewed commitment to this shared work is urgently needed. We face just such a moment now. Because of the leadership of Ms. Figueres, no one is unaware of the urgency in addressing the needs of the poor and the most vulnerable, and protecting and responding to our changing climate, and doing this work together as a global community. The work of the common good is not easy. It requires that we balance our personal freedom with our shared responsibility for the commons. In her own words, this is likely, quote, "the most difficult task we have ever given ourselves, which is to intentionally transform the economic development model for the first time in human history," close quote. It requires engaging with others who may see the challenge differently than we do, who are impacted differently, who see alternative ways of responding. When we step into the public arena, we find ourselves holding personal commitments reached through the exercise of our interior freedom that are at odds with those with whom we seek to build a common good. This work requires compromise, it requires sacrifice, it requires a respect for freedom that often exceeds our boundaries of propriety. It is a project that requires us to presume the best in others and to contribute to a dialogue from a sense of compassion and perhaps even love for one another. For Ms. Figueres, this idea of love is central, and I quote her words again here. Quote, "It's love for the planet, for our home. It's love for each other. It's love for those we know and we love very intensely because they're in our sphere. But it's also love for all those people that we will never know, people who are alive today who we will never meet, people who are going to join us in the future and we will never meet." It's touching that piece of deep humanity in us. Maybe you call that love. People have many definitions for love, but fundamentally, it is being able to align what they do in the world with what they know to be true of themselves. It is this energy of love, this belief in our common humanity that has made all the difference. For we know that if we begin from this commitment to one another and to the common good, we just might see our engagement with the environment differently, not as a matter of containment, but as a moral project in which we seek a better world for those with whom we share this common home. This is a project that demands the very best of us and its leaders like Ms. Figueres, whose own example helps to bring out the very best in each of us. We live in challenging times. We still have work to do, but we engage in the important work ahead, bolstered by her leadership and by what our world has committed to accomplish. Throughout her career, she has been a voice of conscience, a voice of engagement, a voice of participation. She's been a prophetic witness for engaging in the work of the common good. It's an honor to have this opportunity for Georgetown to acknowledge her life's work, and the significant ways in which she has led our international community. Ms. Figueres, your work has impacted each of us and has inspired us to look more deeply into our own values, our own responsibilities, our own commitment to the common good. I want to thank you for this opportunity to honor you, to celebrate you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my privilege to welcome to the podium Ms. Christiana Figueres.
Thank you so very much, President Gigoya. Thank you, Provost Groves. Thank you, Ambassador Vivier. Dear friends, family, thank you for coming here today. It is truly an honor to stand here in the vision of John Carroll, stand here in this great hall of the Little Academy, where throughout 2 centuries, this Little Academy has become such a grand institution. It is equally an honor to follow in the footsteps of Laura Chinchilla, who is taking a photo right now. Laura Chinchilla, who also a truly remarkable Costa Rican woman, who also received this fantastic honor on behalf of Georgetown University, but who has the very added virtue of being a Georgetown alum and today a Georgetown professor. Dear Laura, thank you for everything that you have done. So we are gathered here today to celebrate in great measure the success of the Paris Agreement last year in December. I have to tell you very frankly that Paris Agreement was the result of efforts of thousands, if not millions of people around the world. It was the efforts of 195 nations who came together slowly but surely with the support of a growing and enthusiastic number of subnational governments, cities, provinces, states around the world, with the enthusiastic and growing support of a growing number of corporations, financial institutions, civil society groups, and people, individual people in every single country. I do not remember a more moving moment during the whole arduous Paris negotiation than the moment in which I received 1.8 million signatures from around the world that the faith community had collected throughout the whole year, 1.8 million signatures of people who had understood what we were up against and who wanted not just an agreement, but who wanted an ambitious and a fair and an equitable agreement. Aside from the technicalities of the Paris Agreement, what I find truly inspiring is that the Paris Agreement is a living testimony of mankind's ability to rise to unprecedented challenges, because we have never faced a challenge as grand and as seemingly overwhelming as climate change. The Paris Agreement is a living testimony that we can honor most, if not all, of our differences, our deeply dividing differences in another context, and yet we're able to respect and honor those differences and rise to our higher purpose for the benefit of all. What I find inspiring about the Paris Agreement is that it is a living testimony of Georgetown's motto, Utraque Unum, both into one, meaning the joining of faith with reason. Let me start with reason, because that is the basis upon which we built the Paris Agreement. May I point out 3 fundamental pillars there under the chapter of reason. First, the science. It is very clear that the Paris Agreement is guided by the science, a science that has evolved over several decades and that had, for quite a few of those decades, been on the sidelines of policy development. The fact that we were able to get 195 nations to come to a policy framework that follows science is a remarkable achievement of all of those who participated in this process. The second pillar that stands under the chapter of reason is the fact that the Paris Agreement is predicated on the technologies that make the solution to climate change possible today. All of those who have invested in all of the clean technologies to produce energy in a cleaner way, to transport us in a cleaner way, to produce food in a safer way, to guarantee that we will have better water and more safe water for those who don't have it. All of those technologies lay at the basis of the Paris Agreement. And the third pillar under the chapter of reason is the value proposition. The fact that economists over time, slowly but surely, were able to come to the conclusion that delaying climate is going to be much more expensive, monetarily much more expensive, to put the human cost on the side for one moment, monetarily much more expensive than actually acting on climate change in a timely fashion. So the value proposition from a sheer hard-nosed economic point of view is what facilitated the Paris Agreement. But in addition to those pillars of reason, the Paris Agreement uses those reasonings as a firm foundation and then adds as if to add the dome onto a cathedral that is in construction. The Paris Agreement also invokes faith, and faith understood in its broadest sense, because the 6-year-long road to Paris was paved by relentless optimism, by stubborn trust, and yes, sometimes trust does have to be stubborn, particularly when you have a lot of evidence to the contrary. So sometimes trust just has to be very stubborn. And this was about stubborn trust in the human willingness to better the fate of mankind. The 6-year-long path toward Paris was steered by the guiding star of our common moral values, the conviction that we do share the responsibility to protect the most vulnerable. And as Ambassador Vivier has already quoted, and I actually chose exactly the same quote from His Highness the Pope, His Holiness the Pope, humanity still has the ability to work together in building our common home. The depth of this conviction, the height of that aspiration, elevated the Paris Agreement from what it could have been, merely an operational response to a global environmental problem, elevated it to a bold and ambitious blueprint for a world that is more stable, more just, more inclusive, more equitable, and fundamentally more compassionate. Friends, faced with an unacceptably painful reality today, the nations of the world worked extremely hard to construct a transformative collective vision that is encapsulated in the Paris Agreement. Today, we must work 2 or perhaps 3 times as hard to make tomorrow's reality as laudable as that vision. I thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Ms. Figueres. If you don't mind, could you please stand and join in the singing of the Alma Mater and remain standing for the benediction, which will be offered by Reverend Brian McDermott of the Society of Jesus and Special Assistant to the President. The words and the music of the Alma Mater are printed on the back of your program for those of you who have not memorized it.
Thank you.
Waters was on us today. Let us pray. Gracious God, as we bring this honorary degree ceremony to a conclusion, we ask for your blessing once again. We ask, first of all, that you bless Cristiana Figueres. For many years, she had offered courageous leadership to nations seeking to transform the ways they relate to our planet home. She is fulfilling your mandate in the book of Genesis according to its best interpretation. When you asked human beings, your image and likeness, to represent you in the way we relate to this rich and fertile globe. With Pope Francis, she recognizes that we are called to sustain ourselves in ways that will, as well, sustain the long-term life and health of our planet. Please continue to give her interior joy and strength in the knowledge that she is doing your work. And please bless Georgetown University as we signal by this ceremony our collective desire to grow as grateful stewards of our Earth home. As a university, we seek to grow as attentive, intelligent, reasonable, responsible, and loving stewards of all the resources you have placed in our fallible hands. As a Catholic university, we seek to relate the various branches of knowledge into ever larger wholes and to connect our research and teaching to the deepest human questions. As a Catholic university in the Jesuit tradition, we seek to grow in interior freedom and spiritual living, and to grow in dedication to social justice, interreligious dialogue, and deep engagement with diverse cultures. Strengthen these rich commitments, dear God, which make us who we are. And finally, Lord, bless us with gratitude for all the opportunities you give us to serve, accompany, and learn from those who are most vulnerable, most at risk, most lacking voice and resource. And we make this prayer in the power of your holy name. Amen.
If you will, kindly remain standing at your places until the academic procession has left Gaston Hall. On behalf of President DeGioia and Ms. Figueres, I thank you for coming today. In particular, I thank the members of the Georgetown University Concert Choir who have enhanced our ceremony this afternoon. Please join President DeGioia and our esteemed honoree at the reception that will follow immediately on the second floor. The honorary degree exercises for Ms. Cristiana Figueres are now officially closed.